All right, let's do it live on a Football Friday, the final Football Friday edition of Cleveland Browns Day. Can you believe that statement I just said, brother?
Gross.
It's done?
Gross.
Come
all
on,
I've been
man.
waiting for all day, and all I hope is that Chessie Gibbe's got something planned. Because if he doesn't, I'm going to be really disappointed. That's what we've been sharing.
He's
pictures.
got a lot of balls in the air.
He does. That's the thing. He does. With the honoring of the great in Deke Week. Deke Week has become as big as, frankly, the man himself. And so, yeah, he does have a lot to deal with it. So maybe Chessie Gibbe. Maybe we won't get anything. I mean, people on Twitter are abuzz about what we could get with Chessie Gibbe. There's a great picture of him in a bucket hat going around town that everybody loves.
That's all I want.
Yeah.
That's all I want.
By the way,
Chesty Gibbe. He's had some of the great, forever he had those, he leads everybody to believe that that's apple juice, but we all know that it's Jack Daniels.
That's right.
Or Buffalo Trace that's in those little jars of it's Martinelli's. I'm sure it is, Gibbe.
Yeah, that's
sure it is.
I think as if Gibbe, we would be expected to believe that Gibbe walks around with Martinelli bombs. And 6 of them, a sixer of Martinelli bombs.
A six-pack of Martinelli bombs.
Oh, yeah, they just happen to be in the
Zero
fridge.
chance.
Sure, of course.
Right. No,
Not
in the fridge.
No, come on.
Oh, man. All right, so we'll have Coach here momentarily. He's expected to be at the mic here pretty close here off the top of the show. So we will hear from Coach Stefanski as we prepare for the regular season finale. Hopefully get some feel of who's going to play and who's not.
That's what I'd like. What are we going to see here?
Right. I mean, you and I are going to do the scores later, and I would just like some clarity on who's playing in this game.
Listen,
because we know who's not from Cincinnati's perspective.
It was another solid week for us with the scores. Now that I've decided to turn my attention away from the over-unders once again, like when we didn't have scores, I was all over-unders, made all the furious comeback, and now scores are back. I'm full in on them. Over-unders, be damned. Who cares?
Not even paying attention.
Who needs them? Not even barely. And, another good week there. But, folks, be careful this week. What's happening in our game is happening in a lot of places. Like, if there aren't stakes, you don't know what – it's like life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get.
No, man. No, it's I would not have any interest in this from a scores perspective. Like, no chance. I don't have any idea. And we'll go through it later, but it's a pretty brutal slate. It goes back to what I was saying yesterday about Week 18. There's some jockeying here and there, but there's the Indy game against Jacksonville where they're, I believe, 16-point favorites or something like that. And then there's the Raiders game against the Chargers. That's it. That's the list. That's it. No. There's also Saints and 49ers. So there's Saints and 49ers that's out there as well in terms of who gets the final spot in the NFC. But that's it. And if you think about where you were going into last weekend, the thinking was that Week 18 would have a plethora of games with a lot at stake, and it's going to really be just one where it's a win and you're in, and that's it.
Oh, the Chiefs. I was just thinking about this today after my workout, getting showered, getting ready to come in here. Sometimes I do some great pontificating in the shower. I don't know if that happens for you. But I was thinking how the Chiefs.
Are you a long shower guy or are you a short shower guy?
Very efficient. Once in a great while, I would say the number of showers that I take in a calendar year that exceed 7 minutes is probably
one hand for
5. Yeah. Like yesterday, I was freezing. I was not prepared necessarily for how cold it was. And then we had our remote at Tony K's, and I'd gotten boosted, and so I was feeling a little off anyway. And it was like a good 20 the wind was blustery last night, so
whipping.
It was going right through all of my garments. And by the time I sat in my car, I was freezing. By the time I got home, I just said to Miss Gay, I just need to I need to get in a hot shower. And just stand there for a while. So that was one of the 5, but it is very rare. It's about getting in there, getting clean, moving on. But today, while I was in there doing those things in a quick manner, it was like a 3-minute today. I realized the Chiefs are directly responsible for the end of our season 2 years in a row. I know we're.
Oh my God, they are.
I know we're responsible as well. We had the ball back down 5 against the Chiefs with 8 minutes left. We had our opportunity there. We could have stopped, Chad Henne at the end. And just as they could have stopped Joe Burrow on 3rd and 27 and failed. But the Chiefs, our season has come down to two Chiefs games, one directly involving us, and then this one involving the Chiefs and the Bengals, which curses you Chiefs.
That sucks. Although I'm for it because I think we've done enough of talking about the things we haven't done, so I'm all for shifting blame to others. So if we can shift all of the blame to Kansas City and off of us, then I'm for that. Sign me up for that. I'll take it.
We're in.
Yeah, that is true when you think of it that way. I've talked to various people all this week about that 3rd and 27 on various platforms that I have access to, and no one can wrap their head around it. Really smart football people, really smart defensive people.
It reminds me of what
it's crazy.
The guy said in Princess Bride. Inconceivable.
Right.
It really is inconceivable. Because if you put 3 guys deep and play man 3 with 3 deep safeties so that they just can't throw a vertical.
Correct.
They are going to check it down, even if you give up 15 yards. Okay? Yeah. And by the way, people are thinking maybe the Chiefs were just having – that took them out of the 1 seed.
Sure.
So there were stakes for them. If you'd play that coverage, at best they get 15 yards.
Yeah.
Okay? So they get 15. So now they're at the 26. They got to kick a 43, 44-yard field goal, depending on if they're an 8-yard or a 7-yard team, with a young kicker, probably the biggest kick of his career at that point, without question. Maybe he makes it. Okay, so he makes it. You get the ball back with around 3 minutes, plus or minus, 15 seconds, all 3 timeouts, and Pat Mahomes.
That's right.
Down 3. Not even needing a touchdown.
Win probability, 92%.
Inconceivable.
Right. It's crazy. Oh, it's crazy. In a year of crazy, that was stunning in the moment. It's stunning to think back of now. In terms of who will be playing, we'll be looking forward to hearing what Coach has to say about that. You've done a good job this week of explaining, who this is big for. And the NFL there's a tiered, players are tiered. There are certain people on our team that look, any professional football player, you put on the jersey, you put on the helmet, go play. Like, absolutely. But there are certain players in our organization who you're like, oh, yeah, they're back, like locked in. They're going to right the wrongs of this year, next year, no question. But then the other thing, and this is where games like the one we're going to play in comes into big effect, and that is at the bottom of the roster, and that is guys wanting to make sure that they want to be a part of something long term. You think about MJ Stewart. I heard you talk to AJ yesterday on the coaching show. Like, those guys are trying to be a part of something long term, and for them, if they get opportunities, and you think those two guys will, when you get opportunities, you have to take advantage of them because you're playing for your professional life. The average career is 3 years in the NFL? Like, you have got to continue to put good stuff on tape when you get the opportunities to put things on tape, because there's 7 rounds and free agents of new players coming every year that are trying to take your spot. So there's big opportunity for those type of players. I will push back on one thing that Gibby writes in the rundown here, and he said, is it more than anything, Sunday's a culture game for this organization? I kind of made the mistake of saying that against the Steelers, that it was a culture game because you were playing for nobody. I don't know that it is a culture game. I think the culture is set. I think what happened Monday was wildly disappointing, and we've talked about it all week long. But I don't know that culture can be built in one game on a Monday night or a Sunday afternoon, and it can't be lost that quickly either. It's something that takes time to be built. And so I don't think, for example, if this is a brutal game on Sunday with a bunch of backups playing, I don't know that means the culture isn't here.
No, I think what Gibbe...
Does that make sense?
Yes, and I think what Gibbe meant by that, because we were talking about it when he put in the rundown, what I was saying is that this game...
so he's your puppet.
No, just I'll say what I said, and then I see how you're saying how it was written here, because he liked what I said. I said, this game is about culture, it's about opportunity, and it's about finishing the season strong in front of your fans. And what I meant by for culture for me was that just because this season's over, we're not going to lay down. Like, we're going to compete.
Right.
We're all going to give it our all. We're going to play for each other, play for the brotherhood.
Sure.
This is the last opportunity for this team to be together. It's going to be a different roster next year. It's just a fact of life in the National Football League. So that's what he meant. And he liked that. He just made it more than anything. It's culture. No, more than anything, this is a game of opportunity for those players whose NFL careers are not made and set in stone.
Yes.
And so that's what this game is more than anything. And for a guy like Case Keenum, this is about Case Keenum saying, hey, I went 2-0 as a starter this year, and if my future is not here with the Browns, where can I go and try to compete for a starting job again? That's what Case Keenum's hoping to put out on tape, that this is a guy who deserves an opportunity to, to be a bridge quarterback somewhere once again, or to try to get that opportunity. So I think that's what he means, what he said, what he took from what I said anyway. That this is a game about opportunity. It is about the culture of this organization, that we're going to go out there and we're still going to compete anyway. It's not, the culture of the organization is not in question, though. This isn't a referendum on the culture of this organization. If that's how you took that, it's not a referendum on culture. It is. Let's just embody
I don't think a
the
poor
culture
performance.
And deliver.
Yeah, right. I don't think a poor performance means you don't have it, because we had a very poor performance on Monday Night Football. And I don't think that we don't have it.
Couldn't agree more.
I think the culture is set. There are great young leaders on this team. This was a trying year for everybody, a disappointing year for everybody. No one would dispute that. But at the same time, the stuff that is the good stuff that has been laid down here over these last few years. One of the things that I just bristle at, and I get it's hard for me to bite my tongue, because most of the time it's people I know who you'll hear that same old Browns, and I so quickly want to just fire back with, well, the hell it is. No, it's not. It's not that. This is so different than that. This isn't a blip. This was a 12-win team a year ago that won a playoff game in Pittsburgh. Like, this is not, what had happened in the previous years. And so that's something that when you hear culture game, you think about those type of things. And I always bristle at that, because things are very, very different now and have been for a little bit of while. And this is just something that is a wildly disappointing season for myriad reasons, and it's something that's got to get fixed this offseason. Everybody here knows it, but you're not starting from scratch.
No, listen. All the Browns had to do in their 6 close games, they were 3-6 in games of 6 points or less. But take the 6 losses. On the season, I'm talking about close losses. We know that you were what happened in Pittsburgh, and then you take you got beaten soundly by Arizona, and you were beaten soundly by New England. But the other games, Kansas City, Chargers, Pittsburgh the first time, Baltimore the first time, the Raiders, the Packers. Those 6. You just needed to win 2 of them.
Right.
2 of 6. We were not. This season comes down to the fact that we've talked about it. Disappointing on offense. And the worst part was we were not able to deliver in the clutch moments. And that is what we need to do. But the fact that we were in so many games against quality opponents in those moments, it's there. The foundation's there. This is not the same Browns. You are certainly a few moves away from, I think, vaulting yourself back up to the top. Now, you have to be careful, because the NFL, it's quick to go. The slopes can go both ways very quickly.
Yeah.
But I think you have a great foundation from which to build here. There are some monster questions that need to be answered, obviously, and it feels like the heat is getting ratcheted up on some of those. But you have a good foundation from which to start. And next year, I think that's the thing. There are teams that'll, the Ravens skated through this year for a while, where they were like 5-0 in 3-point games or whatever it was when we played them, 7-0 in games decided by 6 or less. They could have easily been a 3-win team this year. And frankly, what they did is remarkable given the complete decimation of their entire roster.
Yeah.
We weren't in those moments. And that is the biggest story of this year. But those things, when you have huge success in one-score games, it's not a sustainable thing. These are things that always regress to the mean. It's just unfortunate for us in this year we were on the wrong side of more of an outlier, whereas the year before we were on a much better side of an outlier. We were dominant in these situations.
Absolutely.
And so that's going to regress to the mean. The ball's going to bounce your way. You're going to get the call that you didn't get against the Chargers. All of those things are going to happen. That's the story of this year. Offense not up to par. Defense excellent. And it's funny, I've heard so much talk about, the defense has been great lately, but, they weren't good beginning of the year. And, maybe they should have played more in the preseason, and, it took time to gel. Folks, we were 3-1. I don't know if people remember.
Yes, we sure were.
We were 3-1. So we did not have a slow start. And frankly, we should have been 4-0. You have the Chubb fumble, you have a dropped punt snap, you have an interception at the end of the game, you have Mahomes making a 101 play where he rolls out and just chucks it 75 yards, and you get a Tyreek Hill touchdown. But we had the game where we had 9 sacks and allowed the fewest yards net passing, I think maybe in NFL history in that game against the Bears. And then you held a very explosive Vikings offense, an offense that hasn't been below, with Kirk Cousins anyway, 26 points in a game since October. We held them to 7 at their place. I mean, so we didn't get off to a slow start. We were 3-1. It is what's happened since then. Unfortunately, we're 4-8 since then?
Yeah,
We've lost twice for every win. And a lot of it has been due to our inability to score the football. The Chargers game was the one game where, the offense played great and the defense struggled. But remember, we were decimated by injuries in that game in the secondary. You blew a couple coverages, and the referees played a role. Not excusing them, but by and large for the season, the defense has been good. And 2 of their better performances, the Bears, Justin Fields had no chance. And he's looked significantly better as his season's gone on. He's got more reps, obviously. And the Vikings, those are 2 darn good defensive performances.
Yeah, they sure were. Lots of fun on the program. We continue Deke Week with a chat with the great Doug Deacon. He'll join us in about 15, 20 minutes from now. You'll hear from Coach when he goes to the podium. Get into the weekend in the NFL, the scores, a little bit of over-under as well. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland. All right, welcome back into Cleveland Browns Daily. Here's Coach Stefanski at the podium.
I thought the guys worked really well.
You're down.
Now we'll kind of move our preparations into the weekend and excited to get in front of our fans for one last time. I think the weather's going to be maybe wet, windy, so we're excited to get down there. And with that, I'll take any questions.
Thank you very much, Coach. The first one will be from Darryl Ryder.
Yeah, Coach. See, you have 7 players that you're listing as questionable for Sunday's game. Obviously, there's a reason for that, but just how optimistic are you for some of those guys to be able to go?
Yeah, I think some are close, Darryl. They're not all exactly the same, but we want to use the next couple of days to see where they get to before making a determination.
And I wanted to ask you earlier in the week, everybody's a professional in the building, no question about that, but everybody also is human. And just the way things have gone, the challenges that you guys have faced, how difficult has this week been for you guys, knowing that the season is coming to an end and you guys weren't able to achieve what you had hoped to going into it?
Yeah, Darryl, I think like you said, we have pros. There's no doubt that there's disappointment and frustration based on where we are. But as pros, we know that we have a job to do. We know that we got a game on Sunday versus, the division champs. We get to play in front of our home fans, another opportunity to compete. So I do think the guys understand that part of it.
Thank you, Darryl. Nate Ulrich is next.
Hey, Kevin. I'm just wondering, in addition to the guys you listed as questionable, would there be anybody out who you could just rest? Like, Nick Chubb comes to mind. I know, dealing with the rib, he's not one of these guys listed as questionable. Is he going to play, or could he be a guy who would rest?
Yeah, again, we'll kind of make those determinations, Nate, as we get through the weekend. But I would expect if guys can play, they'll play.
Okay. Thanks for clarifying that. I know you said that earlier in the week, but I just wondered because Nick wasn't on there. Miles just said he wants Jadeveon Clowney here. He said he's made a couple pitches. He said something similar last week. What do you think about that tandem of Miles and Clowney? And aside from them being like 2 athletic freaks who are drafted number 1 overall, what made it work? I mean, just, on the field, locker room, personality, whatever. What made that work this year between those guys?
Yeah, I think those 2 guys, and I'd really include the entire defensive line, Nate, when talking about them. I think the great camaraderie amongst that group. Malik Jackson is right in the middle of that. So I just think that group really practiced hard. Just watching them go through their individuals, the amount of energy and effort that they use out there on the practice field. And then they play hard during the game. So Miles and Jadeveon, how they play, how they pressure the quarterback, attack the run, those type of things are very indicative, I think, of the entire position group.
Thanks, Nate. Scott Petrick, you're next.
Hey, Kevin, about Miles, I know we talk about him a ton, but it really does feel like his leadership has grown, maybe just vocally or with us, but seems to be on display a lot. How have you seen that kind of show up within the team and within the building?
Yeah, like I said, I've known Miles for 2 years, so I can only speak on these last 2 seasons, but I see a professional that works hard at his craft, plays very hard, takes on a leadership role and a vocal role when necessary, and in his own way. I think that's probably the most important part with leadership is being genuine and being who you are. And I think that's what we're getting with Miles. You want to get the best version of each of these players.
I think he said he's not afraid to kick somebody in the butt if he sees them doing something wrong. If you notice it, and how important is it to have somebody like that within the locker room?
I think if you look like he does, you're not afraid to kick anybody in the butt.
Thank you very much, Scott. Jeff Shadell, you have our next question.
Hey, Kevin, I'd like to hear your end of this. There's reported rift between you and Baker. I want you to talk about what is your relationship with Baker now is different than last year?
Yeah, I would say it's no different, Jeff. Good relationship.
Thank you very much, Jeff. We'll go to Dan Lobby.
Hey, Kevin, I want to go back to Nick Chubb and kind of your approach. Obviously, like you've said all week, you guys are trying to win this game. You're going to play to win this game. But do you have discussions about, maybe a reduced pitch count for certain guys, trying to be protective of guys? Is that something you talk about as you kind of go through the week?
Yeah, Dan, yes, certainly understanding all of the variables at play here. We talk about each one of our players and how we're going to utilize them. But I do think it's important that, Nick's an example of a guy who's pushing to play. All the guys that they want to play, they want to go compete, they want to go win. I think that's important to have.
And then another guy in that running back room, obviously with Kareem Hunt being out, that hasn't been great. But one of the benefits, I guess, is you've gotten a bigger look at Dearness Johnson. So I guess, what have you seen out of him this year, and how good has it been to sort of see him, I guess, establish himself?
Yeah, I think I've said this a bunch of times about Dearness. He's very dependable. He does his job when called upon. There's been games where he's had to start. There's been games where he's been a backup and thrust into a bigger role. There's games where he's got to play special teams. So he's just dependable in all of those roles.
Thank you, Dan. Marla, right now, we'll go to you.
Yeah, Kevin, one thing I just wonder, with Wills being, kind of in and out and hurt and COVID and all that, could he get something out of this last game? Would it mean something for him to end on a good note?
Yeah, Marla, I really feel that way for all of us, for the entire roster and all of us, as in the organization. I think it's important to go out there and perform and win, like you said. Jed, in particular, he did have that early in the season, some unlucky moments with injuries, and then obviously was out. But he's a young player, and I think he's a young player that is constantly getting better. He works with Coach Callahan and Coach Peters. They put him through the paces, and I think he's a young player that is only going to keep getting better with really solid work.
And one more thing about Clowney, did you see him taking? Miles triple teamed, and did you see some of the effects of having Clowney on the attention Miles was getting?
I think it does work both ways, Marla. It's hard as an offense to give attention to multiple players. You have to make some decisions in terms of how you're going to do that, whether you're sliding the line one way each time or you're putting a tight end or a running back over on this side each time. So the more guys that you have on defense that gets the offense's attention certainly plays to the advantage of those players.
Thank you, Marla. We'll go to Mary Kay Cabot.
Yeah, Kevin, just wondering, how has Jarvis been, since we haven't talked to him very much since Odell left, how has he been, inside the building and on the field for you guys since then, just in terms of kind of his leadership and holding the core together? And is he a key piece of your offense going forward?
Yeah, Mary Kay, I was asked that the other day. He's been great. He really has been, the same guy that walks in the building each day, works hard, provides leadership, plays hard, all of the above. So certainly somebody that we value.
Appreciate Mary Kay. Scott Patrick, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, yesterday AVP said David Njoku's a guy he'd like to have back. Obviously last year of his contract. How have you seen David progress, and how does he fit into what you want to do with that position?
Yeah, I think David's a guy, over the course of the last couple seasons has shown great growth as a player, as a person. The way he's playing on the field and the things we're asking him to do, I think he's doing a really nice job. I think the tape speaks for itself. He's grown as a professional. I think he's still a young man, so he's continuing to grow as a person as well. And I'm really pleased with where he is, and I want him to finish strong.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Jake Trotter will have our last question today.
No pressure. Kevin, you see sometimes in college, teams are trying to win the game in a bowl game, but it's also an opportunity to maybe give some different guys a look or different opportunities. Is that a potential option for you as you try to win this game, but also maybe build off whatever happens Sunday for next season or the off season?
Yeah, again, Jake, I tell you, there's a lot of variables there, like you mentioned. Certainly, we want to make sure that we are going to win the game first and foremost. That's always going to be our goal anytime they're keeping score. And then we do want to be smart about guys that are out there and who we need to see, all those type of things. And it varies across the position groups, but nothing comes before going to get a win.
Thank you, Jake. Coach, appreciate the time today.
You're up.
All right, there's Coach from the podium. I want to remind you, Browns fans can win big with the digital scratch-off game brought to you by Ohio Lottery on clevelandbrowns.com and the Browns social channels. Fans can play once per day throughout the season by digitally scratching off a virtual card for chances to win great prizes like Team Shop gift cards, tickets to future games. And for more information, you can log on to promotions.clevelandbrowns.com. What do you have in front of you there, sir?
Oh, boy. What do I have here?
I mean,
Some
can you
of
get
the
through
tasty
this?
treats from Buffalo Wild Wings. These are the mango habanero, my favorites. And let me tell you something. This is a spicy batch. Muy caliente, as they would say. And, we got to give a huge shout-out. They've got food in here. We've got food back there for Chesty Gibbe. He's got his whole setup there. All the guys coming in. New Rob, Big Drew, Connor with the KPT. They're all coming in, sharing in the delightful treats for Buffalo Wild Wings. So thanks for providing food today to the show and our crew. Couple things going on. Number one, don't forget the Browns bundle. The glasses, they're right here. You've seen them all year long. They're available for only a few more weeks. With the purchase of the Browns bundle, you get the limited edition collectible Cleveland Browns glasses. $14.99 Browns bundle includes a 6-piece wing, boneless or traditional, fries, and a Browns glass for dine-in and pay at the counter takeout at participating Ohio locations only. Now, some people say Taco Tuesday. You know what we say at B-Dubs? Wing Tuesday. Every Tuesday, you can buy one order of 6, 10, or 15 traditional wings and receive a second order of the same size for 50% off. That's buy one, get one, 50% off. That's good for dine-in and carry-out. And beginning Wednesday, January 12th, have B-Dubs delivered to you from BuffaloWildWings.com. Begin an online order and select order delivery, and you're set. So you can enjoy Wing Tuesday. You can enjoy Boneless Thursday specials brought directly to your home beginning Wednesday, January the 12th. And let me tell you something. This mango habanero, it is so good and so hot.
It is. I've never seen you flustered. I mean, it takes
it
a
was
lot.
hot. I thought for a second I might need to go to a milk remedy, but I powered through it because I'm a champion. Play like a champion, no excuses. And in fact, as soon as we go to commercial, I'm going to eat another one.
Fantastic. I love to see it. And all you have to do is be prepared for Deke Week. Doug Deacon, the great Doug Deacon, will join us coming up next. You're listening to Cleveland Browns Daily on 850 ESPN Cleveland.
You guys are down.
EOX Vantage has a local presence with a global footprint. It's trusted by some of the world's biggest brands. Here's a testimonial from EOX Vantage client Ed Shield. Ed's the Vice President of Skyward Specialty Insurance. He says the tools we've designed with EOX Vantage are real business changers that open the door to us to all sorts of valuable opportunities and efficiencies. They help the team members stay on the same page while collaborating remotely. Also make it easy to communicate with the customer, cutting way down on manual data entry and the associated input errors, cut hours off processes and response times. Operationally, Ed says it's a brand new ball game for us, and it can be for you too. I encourage you to learn more about EOX Vantage by visiting www.eoxvantage.com or call 216-298-1616. We have called this Deke Week for a reason. The legend.
Week. Yes.
The legend joining us now. 50 years, Deke. My goodness. What a beautiful number, my friend. And what has this week been like for you as this has now been made public and so many people are saying so many nice things. I've seen some of the coolest images of you through these 50 years all over social media. What has this been like for you and your family?
Well, my phone kind of blew up the last couple of days here, and you're hearing from people that some of them you're sitting there and you're going, geez, I wonder how they got my number. But they're friends from around the league and guys that you played with, and it's a nice thing to hear from these guys and the fact that they remember and appreciate what you did.
Deke, as people have been going through it and you've been interviewed so much and a lot of people close to you have been interviewed so much about you and your time in 50 years, the fact that, as Tony Grossi pointed out, you've been present for more Browns games than anybody on the planet, which is really kind of a stunning thing when you think about it. But what's kind of been your favorite story that either came back to you as you were kind of reflecting on everything or that you've heard somebody else tell as they've been reflecting on your unbelievable career?
Not a lot. Mostly, when you get the guys that you played with, they call, it's a little more ribbon than, the little softer touch to it because, that was the way we played. You played hard when you were on the field and you enjoyed life when you were off the field and, you respected those guys that played hard. Sometimes I think, I probably judge my friends by how they played rather than, what kind of people they were. But, usually if a guy played hard, he was a good person.
Deke, and Beau referenced this at the top, some unbelievable images going around of you from the last, I guess not even the 50 years, but maybe the 50 years with this organization. And some of them, I couldn't believe you and the Hulkster, and you were looking great with Hulk Hogan. Did any of those kind of surprise you or any of those jump out to you being like, oh, man, that was a pretty cool one?
Well, no, because most of them are in my house, and I think the guy came and did the interview, and he I have a collection of pictures of guys that I played with that I liked, the offensive line that we've got their own little corner in the basement, and everybody from Dino Hall, who's one of my roommates and one of the toughest guys I ever played with, Bill Cowher even texted me the other day. Bill was a roommate of mine also. And, just the guys that, Jerry Shirk is another one. And then, out of the clear blue sky, Dan Deerdorf, who was, we were the same, class in college. And, Dan's, sent a note. And there's just, been endless, amounts of people.
It's awesome.
The coolest one, and there were a lot of them that were awesome, but the coolest one I saw was an image of you and John McEnroe. You're holding a tennis. I mean, you're so natural. You're such a natural athlete anyway, my friend. But it was so cool to see that. And I started to. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. There was a time where it was almost like you were the ambassador to the city. Is kind of the feeling of it.
We want to do a TV series.
Famous,
that's right.
Yeah. Anytime anybody famous comes to town, well, we got to go see Deke. And you were the guy. What do you remember about the McEnroe thing? And do you ever, when you look back on some of that stuff, do you ever pinch yourself and go, my gosh, look at all of this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it means a lot. The McEnroe deal was after he retired from the regular circuit, they had a Tennis Over America, and they wanted to have a exhibition match at Public Hall, and so they wanted a couple jocks to do it. So they called me, and they called Herb Score. Oh. And I was teamed with McEnroe, and Herb was teamed with Mats Wilander. Well, being the competitive guy I was, I went out and took tennis lessons and stuff like that before. Herb didn't. And I can, always say, as a pro tennis player, I was 1-0 because we beat those guys.
That's even better. I love it.
I mean, there's a lot of opportunities that you're grateful for that you get because you played in the game, and one of my most favorite was meeting President Ronald Reagan. He was at the facility one day, and one of my best friends, Tim McCarthy, who was the Secret Service agent that took the bullet for President Reagan, he said, "Would you like to meet the president?" And I said, "Hell yes." So he took a picture with me, and Tim got it signed, and you cherish the opportunities not a lot of people have to do some things that come across because of what you did in the game, or the fact that you played the game, and it's just there's just been a lot of experiences that unfortunately not everybody gets a chance to do it, and you appreciate those, I think, a lot more as you go down the road.
Well, that one's so cool, and then the story that you made, and I was reading a bunch of all of these pieces that have been written about you, and there's so many great ones, but that you had made your buddy McCarthy a shirt with a bullseye on it afterwards that he actually showed to Ronald Reagan, right?
Yeah, he was wearing it underneath his regular shirt, and the president was said something about he had an XY3, so nobody would know who he was because they were out chopping brush. And he said, Tim, I kind of feel stupid wearing this sweatshirt. And he says, Mr. President, you think that's bad? Look at this. And he pulls it up, and he's got this Tim McCarthy's fan club shirt with a bullseye. And President Reagan goes, "Where did you get that?" And he says, "One of my college teammates." He says, "Son, you got some sick friends."
Just so there's proper gravity to that story. For our younger listeners, President Reagan there was an attempted assassination of President Reagan, and Deke's college roommate or college teammate was on the Secret Service and took the bullet, and then you made a T-shirt with a bullseye on it.
Yeah, well, and I'd been working out over at Berea that day, and I was going over to Bucci's to have lunch, and it's on the TV that the president and two unidentified people had been shot. And I look up at the TV, and I said, "He's not unidentified." And then it turns out that the press secretary, James Brady, who had gotten shot, he was a fraternity brother, but ahead of me at Illinois. So, in that one little piece of history to know, two of those people was, something you always think about.
Jeez. Wow. That's just it's remarkable, the cross-section of life you've touched, and it's just so beloved around here, Deke. I think one of your great gifts, and obviously the last many years with Jim, but one of the great gifts of doing the job you've done is to be able to do it with different people and to be effective throughout, because you have to build those chemistries throughout. And it's been pure magic, you and Jimmy, the last couple of decades since the team's come back.
Yeah.
What has allowed for that to happen? What have you done to make sure that along the way that with different personnel guys, different play-by-play guys, you always fit in very seamlessly with it? What allowed for that to happen so easily?
I think it's to know your role, and obviously, Jimmy is the Johnny Carson. I get to be the Ed McMahon, and Jimmy is, he paints the picture, and he's a total professional. I mean, he just, if he'd ever made a mistake, I don't remember it, and he's put so much energy into it, and having worked with him and for 20-some years now, I don't think any city could have a better play-by-play guy than Jimmy Donovan.
Dick, and you're absolutely right about how great Jim is, but you were great as well. And, for me, it was such an honor to get to join your guys' team and be on the sidelines for the last 8 seasons and have that kind of front row seat to it. But I can tell you that, when Browns fans are all scattered around the country, and so they listen to our broadcast, but obviously other broadcasts as well at various times. And I think the consensus is without question that you and Jim are the best team on radio, in the NFL. And I certainly would concur, and it's been an honor to work with you. I was saying
you weren't there then the game I spotted the ball on the 52-yard line.
It was before my time.
I think it was before Jim, and I go, well, he's on the 52. Oh, my buddies, they just roasted me on that one.
Now, I wasn't there where you spotted the ball on the 52-yard line, but Deke, I was there when you spotted Gibbs in Baltimore, which I told that is my favorite Deke story when you said, oh, where's Gibbs? There he is, and they have that guy, the bald guy with the goatee, a little heavy set up on the big Jumbotron. We all kind of all fell out of our chairs, and I fell down on the sideline, and now that is a running joke whenever we go back to Baltimore. But that was my favorite. Do you have a favorite memory in the booth or a favorite call that you made or got to be a part of along with Jim?
I guess the one call that I actually got criticized for was the double overtime game against the Jets, and the Browns made a big comeback, and people had left the stadium, and I just said on the air, hey, if you left, you might want to turn around and come on back because this thing's not over yet. Well, obviously some guy had left and couldn't get back in, and he called up and he was all unhappy that I had said that, but. Hey, that was just the facts of life. If you quit on the team, shame on you.
That's right.
Oh, that is great. As cool as this has all been, I can't imagine what it's been like, for your family and everybody, and the ability to grandkids now and be able to share with that. Deke, what has this been like to share such an incredible life? Because so few people get to live the way that you've lived over these 50 years. What has it been like to then share it with the next generation? With you?
Unfortunately, I didn't get married till after I retired. So my kids never got a chance to see me play. And I've got two of the greatest in the world. Both have been successful, and both of them, have been first class, and you couldn't ask for better kids. And then they extended with, besides Connie, Spencer, and Allie, then you go with the grandkids. And I was over with them last night, and Spencer goes to my 3-year-old. He says, "What are you going to do this weekend, Austin?" "Go on a Poppy Doug." So it kind of breaks your heart.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. And Deke, when you think about 50 years, we're celebrating the 75th anniversary of the Browns. 50 years you've been a part of this organization. You've been Iron Man on the field and in the booth. And to think, that you're going to be a part of this forever, right? I think that you're so synonymous with this organization. So many people know at least about those parts of it. But one of the things that I think is an underreported story, probably by design, and you maybe say, you're so philanthropic and you've done so much for this community beyond what you've given them, being the voice of the Cleveland Browns for so long, and the generations of Cleveland Browns fans who are playing for this team. But why was it so important for you to not only do that publicly, but then privately to be so generous and help out this community and be so philanthropic?
Well, people always ask you, why do you stay in Cleveland? What do you like about Cleveland? And I keep saying it's the people. The people are great. And I had a younger brother that wasn't as fortunate as me, and he was a Special Olympics athlete. And one of the greatest thrills I ever had in sports was when he won ribbons in the Special Olympics. And he turns to me and he says, "What do you think about this big shot?" And he gave him a chance. And so we got involved in the Special Olympics, here. Julia Jager was a lady that was a teacher and a special ed teacher. And we started a foundation. And, I think over the course of, 20-some years, we raised over $500,000.
Wow.
And, we're able to, give it back to the community. And I think that's the one thing about, being a ball player. Yeah, you get the platform, but it's what you do with that platform. And, my younger brother also had, epilepsy, so I was on the epilepsy board, and, we had fundraisers. One year I had Dick Butkus come in and speak, and we were trying to get Belushi, but unfortunately he was going to come too, but he was making the Blues Brothers, and he couldn't do it. But it's just, it's not all about taking from the community; it's about giving back. And when I think the purest form of sports is the Special Olympics, because my favorite movie was there was a story called The Kid from Nowhere, and they were running in the Special Olympics race, and the guy up front fell down, and the kid that was behind him, instead of going across and winning, he helped the kid up so that he could get across the finish line. And we take our sports serious. We hate to lose and things like that. But when you see a story like that, it says, this is what sports should be all about.
Yeah, it certainly should be. And for so long, buddy, you have been everything that this organization's been all about.
That's right.
And everything that it aspires to be. And the class with which you've handled yourself has been just something we all aspire to be. Such a great example for all of us, not just the organization, but the city as well. We absolutely love you. We thank you so much for your time today. Can't wait to listen to you on the broadcast one more time on Sunday, my friend. Thanks for your time.
Yeah, now, here's the thing. I've had season tickets for 48 years. I guess I'll finally get to sit in them.
Can you imagine?
Man.
Whoever has the seats next to there and you sidle in there?
It's like winning the lottery when Deke's
back.
Yeah,
and in fact, when Modell, I did a contract, my last contract with him. I told him I wanted my season tickets for life, and they put it in there, and because I have a 50-yard line upstairs, and so then they moved, and I went in and I said, hey, what are you going to do about my season tickets to the lawyer Jim Bailey? So they ended up giving me. They had Indians tickets, so they gave me the Indians tickets that they had, and so I gave the tickets to all the Browns employees that didn't go with the team to Baltimore because you appreciated those people, and there's friendships within the building besides the players that you develop, and like you talked about the radio